Okay, we're going to get started again. I want to introduce Naheem George, who's going to be talking about the SAT prep course that we're putting together, and it will start next week.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting Ideal Education here to be at your school. I want to start off by asking everyone if they know what important day it is today. Anyone? Relating to SATs. Actually, SAT examinations, I actually called one of my students this morning who's taking the SAT in Boston, wishing her good luck in her endeavor today. So, we're all here hoping to achieve the best possible result for our students. So, we've been working with Benson and trying to provide this course to the community, and so we'll be talking about the details. So the SAT exam, of course, Alice mentioned the importance that it has on college admissions, and you saw the integral calculations and how that plays into it. It's only one. It's a factor, a very important factor, but of course there are other factors in college admissions. Some history. I know I'm interested in history. The SAT actually had its foundations back in 1901. It was based as an Army psychological test to eliminate the bias between people of different socioeconomic backgrounds. That's how it started, and has evolved to be incorporated with the College Board and as an instrument to evaluate different students from different schools. And of course, and with that comes also different socioeconomic backgrounds of each school. Just some basic backgrounds on the exam itself for basic reference. There are three main sections, which is the math section, critical reading and writing. There are 10 sections, each 20 to 25 minutes each. The first section is an essay, which will usually be about we'll usually have a quote by some famous artist, politician, and then ask you to write a prompt whether you agree or disagree on that. The following 9 questions are all based on the other 3 main sections. And of course, at the end, there's an unmarked section which helps improve test-taking strategies for the College Board and to make sure that there's a correct curve on the grading scale. For mathematics, the main topics in mathematics are numbers, operations, algebra, functions, geometry and measurement, data analysis, statistics, and probability. Critical reading, which for us seems to be the major concern with most of our students that have most difficulties in. That involves reading sentence completion and passage-based readings. And the writing, of course, it's asking for students to find errors in basic English grammar, sentences, and in paragraphs. Some basic information on the SAT dates for this 2012. The domestic schedule is on today's March 10th. The next one is May 5th, and the next one is after that is June 2nd. So as I said before, we're hoping to start this program possibly next week. Saturday, an hour course for 10 weeks, hoping to address the main strategies that often come up in SAT test taking. Students that have these strategies always do well on the SAT. It's something that can definitely improve an applicant's score into, from, say, a leveling off of score number. It can improve their score as they move on. So the way we're going to divide this course is we're going to divide it just like the exam itself. Since it's 10 weeks, there's 10 sections. We can divide it first into an essay strategy session, which will review basic strategies for essay writing. Of course, a main part of college writing is being able to write a clear, concise essay and how to argue a point with a thesis statement and different elements of a 5-paragraph system. But within that broad and overarching essay writing theme, there are certain skills and suggestions that we have for our students that take our course. And it helps clear their mind onto what write on the SAT writing section. It's very important because it is part, compared to other standardized text exams for private schools, the writing section is actually a graded component of the exam. After, we're going to be focusing on vocabulary. Vocabulary has a two-folded benefit for the student, because if you work on vocabulary, you also improve your reading, your critical reading strategy and practice, so it has that added benefit. Of course, in the critical reading section, that is a very difficult section for many students, because the answer sometimes is not explicitly obvious. There are sections where you'll read something and they'll ask you, based off this passage, what can you infer? What was the author inferring? And that takes a little bit more thinking. It's not just you could go to a specific guy and say this. Although that is the case, and we will be covering that in the course. But it's more being able to go to specific lines and being able to say, wow, the author's main point from passage is so. And the SAT will try to add answers that will most likely trick students. They'll take answers that seem like they're the right answers, but in the end they're not. So being able to go with that, with a class is very beneficial. So a great benefit of having this class with Ivy Labs Education is the fact that we have our own curriculum. We have our own coursework material that we're able to implement with our teachers and with our students. It permits for further exploration of those test-taking strategies to improve student scores. This is just a sample of our vocabulary section. But of course, our teachers have different copies with answers and ways to enhance teaching strategies. So, teaching strategy will be the main focus of this course. And there are 3 main points which I would like to talk about. The first one is confidence. Students go into the SAT feeling very overwhelmed. They look at the SAT as, oh, this 4-hour-long test. How am I going to handle this? Am I really ready? And in the end, it's the teacher's responsibility to talk to each student and say, this is only a test. This is not something that's beyond your control. We can prepare for this exam together. And so by doing that, the student will feel comfortable in approaching the test and seeing the test just as basic question and answers. And working together with the teacher, they'll be able to see, oh, so this is why this question is wrong. If you take any Kaplan book or College Board, they'll have practice exams, and students could do all they want on them. But it's different to actually have someone that has taken the exam be able to say, well, this is the reason for this answer. And being able to ask questions and interact and then extrapolate that question to a broader set of questions, which is extremely important if you want to improve your test scores in the end. Being able to extrapolate, oh, I got one question wrong, number 19, say. but then learning from that so you can apply it later on. It's not just about knowing that you got 19 wrong and then trying to fix 19. Does everyone understand what I'm trying to say? So, making that one mistake and then making it into a strategy for future questions that you can pick up in a book. And that's what having us is a real value to any course. As I mentioned before, strategies are a big component. We are Ivy Labs for a reason. We formulate and we scientifically strategize on how to improve our students' chances of college admissions. And of course, there's different factors, and you saw the numbers on our integral calculations. But there's also test-taking strategies that we have to address, and many students don't know that. Many books fail to properly describe how to do a reading passage and look at the answer and find the correct answer choice based on strategy. I have tutored students on private individual tutoring, and I don't really even read the whole passage because there's only certain sections that you have to read in to get a better score. And that's the strategy that we're trying to advocate to our students for our courses. And the final one, at least, is agility. It's a time test. You have to get through as many questions as you can in order to achieve a high score. So that the classroom setting allows that because it puts you in comparison with other students. It forces you to, oh wow, my colleague is like, my friend is up to 19 and I'm at 14. I need to speed up a process. But there's also strategies that we could also implement to improve the agility and velocity. For example, math questions, a lot of students rely on their calculators. And that's really, in the end, some questions are basic. You could look at the question, cross out a couple of things, and then the answer is pretty much there. You only have to do the simple multiplication. But some students will, until they have, oh, let me plug this in, let me do this, and in the end, they're wasting time that they could have been spending on other sections. In the end, I would like to compare it to a tennis analogy. Confidence going into a match saying, I'm here, I'm going to do well. I know I had a coach when I used to row, and said, keep your heart rate down once you start a race. It helps keep your mind steady, it helps to keep your mind serene, and it'll help you move along the track. If you get too nervous, it's going to hurt you. That's confidence. It's sports, and it's also true for a test. Strategy. Any sports has a strategy that people follow. That's pretty self-explanatory. And agility is something that comes with time and practice. And that's what we're here for. That's why we have a 10-week course. And we're positive that after a course, every student will leave it knowing and having the correct implementation tools to correctly be able to handle the SAT exam. So just if you're wondering for pricing for this course, we've spoken with Benson regarding it. For non-NWCS students, the course will be $325 per student. NWCS will have a discounted price of $275 per student. This pricing includes materials. They will actually be printed materials for students. And it also includes the teaching and instruction. Any questions? That is the NWCS script, yes. Could you repeat?
Because you have a lot of students, right? Do you have any?
Well, we do have a lot of students that have gone through our tutoring programs, and of course this is a smaller section of our private tutoring and more advanced program. But as Alice Stryker shows, we average you're looking at 2,000 to 2,100 on the average score. So, but of course that takes into account students that it's their first time into the country, they're not very good English speakers. They bring down the score versus, higher ones that did get, 22, 23. So in the end, it does average out. But I know some people, and I've spoken to some people in the crowd here, it's some students don't have very good English language capabilities. So that's something we also incorporate too into our test taking strategies. For the NWCS, it's 275.
If you're not a part of it.
Oh, if you're not part of it, it'll be 325.
So the 10-week course.
The 10-week course.
What's the age group?
We're looking for high school students. That is the.
Do you come every year?
Excuse me?
Do you come every year?
This is our first year with working with the Ivy Labs folks. So this is basically our pilot program. We're trying it out, making sure that everyone's happy and working out some of the kinks. I'm hoping everything's going to be fine, and then we can continue this going into next year and going forward.
So, are there so many SAT type courses? What do you think that your company is stand out for compared to different courses?
Well, I think that the main, the strongest point that we have to offer is the fact that we can sit down with the student and actually let them know where they're going wrong. Before this course, we might ask our students to take a practice exam. So we can see what are the sections that they're having difficulties in, and we target and focus our instruction on those particular sections. By doing that, it's more efficient for the student, and it helps improve their grades. There's different curves to grades, but it seems to be a curve that goes along this line. So if you can, there's a curve for math, for reading, and for writing, and if you are on a specific line, if you spend an equal amount of time on each one, you might not even get the highest score back. So, but if we do our targeted approach, which is what we're looking to do here, we would customize our teaching program to focus on those difficulties to help students improve their test scores.
That's part of the reason why we're trying to keep the class size
Down, right. There's going to be a maximum of 10 students for this class.
I will start a waiting list, so if we get enough, then we may do a second class.
Right.
Can I ask you that?
You
Perfect.
signed up already? I have about 8 on the list.
Well, I want to know, do you accept 8th grade students?
Oh,
8th grade students, we'll have to discuss that and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, because I want her to take that SAT for applying the John Hopkins. That's why I'm asking.
They're requiring for the ESTP class in the 10th grade program, you can try to prep her for the one that she's taking in October of 10th grade.
No, I'm the John Hopkins school.
For the summer program.
They need to, well, last year she's in 2nd grade. I think she can go to the academic one, but not the intensive one. So I want to increase her and go to the intensive.
Will they take an SAT? How would they take an SAT if her reading and writing section together, 2 sections together is more than 12 compared to then she's qualified.
Yeah, that's why I want to increase her. That's why I'm asking, do you accept 8th grade students?
7th grade, which is finished.
Really, I think they need to take a pre-test to see whether they're qualified.
The basis we're looking for is a special with Yes,
That's
yeah.
exactly what
We
we
start at 11, you said, class started at 11 o'clock. How long does it run to?
To 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock?
It is for during our third hour.
So it's a 1 hour, it's about 1 hour.
Perfect. All right, well, thank you very much.